Welcome first grade parents and families to Curriculum Night. We will be reviewing and giving you an overview of everything that your child will be doing and working on in first grade. So let's get started. First, we'll meet the first grade team. There's Mrs. Vane, Miss Millett, and Mrs. Goldberg. The first grade team together has been working for a couple of years now. So we're pretty in tune with each other. We know our strengths and our weaknesses, and we're very collaborative in helping each other out. Mrs. Vane has 2 cats and loves math. Miss Millett has 2 dogs and loves reading. Mrs. Goldberg has 1 cat and loves to teach writing. So together, we're able to combine our loves and create some really great instruction. We've been at School 23 for many, many years and look forward to being here many, many more. Here's some information on how to communicate with the teachers. You can always find the first grade team through Seesaw or email. During the day, during instructional hours, we strongly encourage you to use Seesaw or email, as that's the best way to get a hold of us. It also helps us to respond during asynchronous times. When instruction's going on, you might not get a response right then, but usually during the next async block, we will do our best to get back to you. It just helps with keeping instruction going. When you're on Zoom and you notice your child's having a problem with technology or there's an issue, please use the chat button. If you wiggle your mouse, you'll see a little speaking bubble at the bottom of the Zoom. That's the chat button. And you can send a text message during the Zoom to the teacher. We strongly encourage that during Zoom, if there's an immediate problem, to utilize the chat. It helps us to keep instruction going. Now, we will also be sending out updates to schedules as we return to hybrid in February, and we'll let you know through Seesaw, through our parent letters. So be on the lookout for that. Here are our class website and our school website. We strongly encourage you to bookmark the School 23 website, as there's a ton of information regarding reopening. There's also links to School 23's Twitter and parent Facebook. There's a link for Miss Goldberg's class website and Miss Vane's class website, where we update with information and also resources that would help your child. Here are learning platforms that we're using this year. Pre-K through 2nd grade is utilizing Seesaw. 3rd through 12th is utilizing Google Classroom. For Seesaw, we're using that as communication, but also as a way to collect digital work from your child. So you'll see exit tickets, science, social studies that they're able to turn in, as well as we're able to put up our Zoom links and provide parents information. We noticed that our students are getting really good with the Seesaw platform. So we're excited to see their growing level of independence. Now at School 23, we've been taking a lot of professional development regarding culturally responsive pedagogy, which is in instruction that's embedded with assets that students bring to school every day. So we're taking into account their knowledge, their culture, their history, their values, and we're incorporating it throughout our instruction. Now we're trying to take our instruction we have to do and include student voice, as well as things that they can relate to. So we've been working very hard and continue to work on developing and further incorporating more and more culturally responsive teaching in our lessons. The instructional components of School 23. So this kind of gives you a breakdown of how we go about doing our instruction. The first one you'll notice is the workshop model. The workshop model is just the structure that we use for instruction. So you'll notice that when we begin a lesson, we usually start with the learning targets, and those are what the student at the end of the instruction should be able to do. We review them, we break them down into student language, and then we also review them as we're going through the instruction. Then we go into our mini lesson, which is about 5 to 10 minutes, where we're teaching the skill and having students either follow along, they're following with modeling, but they're picking up on that skill that we're trying to teach for that day. Then we move into small group instruction where students were better able to meet their needs, bring in their strengths, work a little bit more closely with students if they're having issues. And then we all come back for a closing where students are able to share out, we're able to share things such as what did the students notice. This is also a time for exit tickets. The exit tickets are just a quick little assessment to see, did the student understand the learning target and the skill? We also end our day in first grade with MTSS time, multi-tiered support system, where we're focusing on ELA and math, and we focus on the areas in which students may need for their further support, more support, maybe a skill hasn't quite developed, or there's an area that we're noticing that the students are having difficulty with, and this will be our time. For the most part, in first grade, we're focusing on skills and skill-based instruction during the MTSS time. We are differentiating instruction based on the data that we're collecting from students, and we're collecting it through observation, the exit tickets, assessments, and conversations with students, as well as what they're demonstrating during instruction. During remote learning, the observation piece is very critical to this. And then we're able to create different seesaw assignments for them. So while there might be a group of students that are at grade level, we might have a group that are not quite there, or we might have a group that is above grade level, and we're able to create different assignments based on their instructional needs. Project-based learning is another instructional component that we have used in the past, where we are usually learning about one big project and we have a culminating activity. And we have not done one this year, but we're looking to utilize the ELA curriculum and possibly build one for the end of the year. In science, we are very blessed to have a donor in our school who is paying for our FOSS science kits, as well as video conferences for our students. And the FOSS science kits are based on the standards, but there are many, many boxes that come with hands-on learning that we're able to utilize. And for video conferences, we're able to live stream with various science teachers or presenters. This Friday, we will be taking part in a astronaut live video conference, and that is always just a great time. In terms of instructional apps that we're using to support our students, we have Zearn, which is our math app, and that follows right along with the standards that we're teaching. So it's a great reinforcement tool. It's also a tool where we're able to adjust students' level. If we notice that there's a skill they're not quite understanding, we're able to work with them through Zearn on that. And it's self-paced, so the students are able to go at their own pace. It's not too fast, it's not too slow, it's right where they're working at. In terms of our MyView ELA, we have our new ELA app, Success Maker, which is helping students to further progress on their reading skills, their phonics skills, comprehension skills. At the beginning of Success Maker, all the students took an assessment, and Success Maker takes all of the instruction that it has and makes it individualized for the student. So however the student came out on their assessment, it builds the instruction individualized for that student. And as the student is progressing, it adjusts the program for the needs of the student. We're also utilizing Mystery Science. You may have seen the videos Mystery Doug. Well, Mystery Science is very similar. It has great science videos with hands-on activities that go right along with our science curriculum. So we talked a little bit about learning targets. So what is the purpose of the learning targets? The learning targets are short-term goals. They're goals that we put in an I can statement so that the student at the end can feel successful. They can say, I can add 3 numbers together. So at the end, we're hopeful that students are gaining understanding of that goal. So the learning targets are presented at the beginning of the lesson. They're broken down and then they're reinforced throughout the lesson. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about our subject areas that we are teaching. So we have language arts. So aside from phonics instruction, some of the reading skills that your child will be learning in first grade are building reading skills through reading strategies, understanding fiction and nonfiction genres, retelling stories, making connections, visualizing, and using text features. In comprehension, we're really focusing on that retelling. So can students retell events in beginning, middle, and end using some of the details from the story. So character names, the setting, and this would be a really great skill at home to work with students is as they're reading a book, and we strongly, strongly encourage each student to be reading 10 to 20 minutes every day with somebody. But after they're reading, have them talk about the book. What happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened at the end? Who were the characters? What was the setting? So that will also boost their comprehension skills and strengthen that area. So we strongly, strongly encourage students to be reading every day after school. We also have Mrs. Van Remen, who's our speech therapist. She pushes into the classrooms 2 times a week to teach and practice language concept. This is under the Foundations Language Enrichment Program that kindergarten students in first grade are able to receive. And we're very grateful that she comes in. The students love it. This past week, we've been learning about synonyms. So it really helps to boost students' language concept skills. In writing, we're working on writing incomplete sentences. And this is an area where remote learning is very difficult for us to observe and help each individual student. So with remote learning, it's very hard to see the sentences and it's very hard not to be there because usually we are right there with the students helping them along. So families, if you could help support in one area, we would really love it if you could help with writing. When students are writing, focusing on those capital letters, punctuation, so periods, question marks, exclamation, and word spacing. You'll often hear us encouraging students to use one finger, put down a finger space, or if they have a popsicle stick, or even just another pencil, but to put spacing in between their words and to make sure that their sentences are following that left to right movement. Inventive spelling. So a lot of times when we're doing writing, students might get a little frustrated saying they don't know how to spell a word. That's okay. In first grade, that's okay. We're encouraging them to use inventive spelling. So that means they're going to sound out the word. They're going to tap it out and write the letter that they hear. So for example, if they're doing the word cat, it'd be k, at. So they go back and go k. What letter says k? What letter says a? What letter says t? And write the letters that they hear. We're also having students draw and label pictures that match the topic. So they should be drawing the picture, but then going back and labeling parts of the picture. So if they have characters, they should be labeling the characters. If they're in a certain setting, labeling the setting. If they're doing a certain action, they can label the action or the tools that are in the picture. We're going to be working on different kinds of writing drama or genres. Narrative and informational are going to be our key ones, but by the end, we'll also get to opinion and then probably end the year with narrative again. Math. So below we've included some of the math skills that your child will be learning this year. So in first grade, students should, by the end, be able to recognize and count numbers to 120. They should also be able to add and subtract math facts to 20 very quickly without pen and paper. It's, if you think back, probably when we were growing up, it was with flashcards where they just, the card goes up and they need to know it. So that is an area. Also, if you're looking to support your child at home, we strongly encourage addition and math fact flashcards and just practicing them. When we are doing instruction, we're working on word problems. You'll notice that we have students circle the important information. Usually it's the number and then underline words in the question. This is part of our CUBE strategy, and this helps students to take apart word problems and put them into steps that will be needed to solve that problem. CUBE's method is a universal strategy that we're using in School 23. So they will be utilizing this strategy all the way up to 6th grade. Pretty soon we'll be learning about time. Students will need to know time to the hour and half hour on both analog and digital clocks. We'll be working with money, specifically identifying coin names and value, and then adding different groups of coins. So at the end of the day, if you have a handful of change, we would greatly encourage, put it on the table, have them identify the coin names, practice with them how much is that coin worth. That would be a great way to support them. Addition and subtraction, we're going to be working up to 100 students, and this is with pen and paper. Students will need to be able to add and subtract with and without regrouping. We're going to be working on measurement, measuring with centimeters, and then non-standard objects such as how many paper clips, how many cubes. Those are non-standard. We're going to work on place value, so ones, tens, hundreds, and then comparison, which number is greater than or less than. In science, our 3 main units of science are light and sound, which we've completed at the beginning of the year, animals and plants, which we are working on now, and then we will be transitioning into solar system. In social studies, we are going to be focusing on communities, neighborhoods, timelines, the theme of long ago, being a good citizen, and then we're going to work on African American history, women in history, Hispanic heritage, and many other cultures and traditions. You'll see us focusing on some important figures. And as we said, science and social studies are both async, so students will not receive Zoom instruction on these subject areas, but all of their work will be in Seesaw. In our School 23 building, we have our ESL teacher, Ms. Perez. She pushes into Ms. Fain and Ms. Millet's room. In our school, we have many students who speak Arabic, Nepali, Karen, and Spanish at home, and they're receiving support in reading, writing, listening, and speaking in the English language. And Ms. Perez also is pushing in and assisting with some small groups as well. Art. So Miss English is with us this year, and here's her slide. Her website is also available through the School 23 website. But this year, she wanted to let you know that students are working on many different concepts. They've discussed artwork from Latin American artists such as Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo. Students are working on line, shape, color, value, space, and texture. And they've been exploring elements of art through drawing, but also digital art, which is very exciting. Miss Polishensky is our music teacher. And this year, her music focus is on musical literacy, world music, music history, and music exploration. And she put a little video down here that I'll hit play for you. All right, so now we're going to continue with our next special. Oops. Mr. Greer and phys ed. Now, students participate in phys ed 2 days a week, One day is all asynchronous and one day is on Zoom. Mr. Greer would like us to mention that for async days students do not have them on Zoom, students need to make a comment on the first activity in Seesaw so that he can mark attendance. So the comment can be just typing their name or saying done, but leave him a comment so that way he can mark the student's presence. And Mr. Greer is doing an amazing job. All the students come back and they're so excited about gym class. Library, we have a new librarian this year, Ms. Paris. We strongly encourage you to visit the library website. There's a ton of digital websites and resources such as Destiny, World Book Encyclopedia, Gale eBooks. And each month she is having a theme. So January, the month theme is social justice. Assessments. Students take assessments even in remote learning. We do summative assessments, which are collected 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. We use the NWEA. We use the New York State test for the older students in grades 3 and up. And then we do F&P, which stands for Fontes and Pinnell testing, where we are able to gauge students' reading levels by having them read books and then talk about them. Formative assessments allow data to be collected throughout. So these are fluency checks, quizzes, notes, teacher observation in remote learning. The teacher observation is going to be really our key point of data collecting. Once the data is collected, teachers can form small groups and that group can receive instruction at their level. These groups are very fluid, which means just because a student is in a group at one point does not mean they will stay there. As we're collecting our data, we move students based on their needs and their needs for instruction. So your student may be changing groups a couple times a year. They may be staying with the group. It's very dependent on the student's level of need. Testing schedule, grades 3 through 6 take New York State testing later in the year. Ames web testing will be a math fluency check, and that will be coming sometime at the beginning of February and then again in May. And the Fontes and Pinnell, the reading assessment, takes part 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. So students are currently undergoing that now, and we'll do that assessment again in the springtime. Here's our grading rubric. Rochester City School District has a 9-point grading rubric that correlates with the New York State. So if a student is a 1 or a 2, they are below the standards. If they're a 3, 4, or 5, they are either beginning to meet the standards or they have some of it. They're just not quite at grade level. And then a 6 is they're right at grade level standards. So during a report cards, you will see the Rochester rubric used. And these areas are determined based on the learning standards for that quarter. So each quarter, students will be graded on the standards that were taught in that quarter. What can you do at home? Reading to your child daily, asking them questions, talking with your child about their day. Are there areas that they seem to be really interested in? Have students explore and play. A very huge part is we want to make sure that their day is not just sitting in front of a computer, that they're able to explore with their toys, play with their siblings, have that time to be kids. And then designate a quiet place for schoolwork. So if there's an area in their home where there's a table, a chair, where they can be set up for success that's a little bit quieter, that would really benefit your child because it gives them a space to know this is my workspace, and it helps with their focus. Tips for Zoom success: dressing appropriately, making sure that they have their shirt on, they're ready to go. Do they have a quiet spot where an adult could be there if they have a technology issue? Make sure that Chromebook is charged or plugged in. Having the Zoom camera on, that helps us observe and help your students know if there's an area where we might notice they're not quite getting, but we need the cameras on so that we can see it. Being mindful of the background noise. The microphone on the Zoom camera picks up everything. So if there's a conversation going on, even in the next room over, the Zoom camera will pick up that noise and it will be heard by the whole class. So just be mindful of that. Having materials ready and then having students being on time would just set your student up for a great day of Zoom. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, please reach out to the teachers, and thank you for your support.